Coming up on this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast.
The number one reason a business will succeed and number one reason a business will fail is the leadership. It's the number one. You will not exit if you don't have AI layered into your business. Why? Because who's going to buy a business that isn't future-proof? They're not buying your business today. The way to think about it is no one's buying your business today. They're buying the opportunity to scale your business.
Welcome to the Elite Recruiter Podcast with your host, Benjamin Mena, where we focus on what it takes to win in the recruiting game. We cover it all from sales, marketing, mindset, money, leadership, and placements.
I am so excited about this episode because we're going to talk about the dream that so many recruiting founders dream about. We're going to talk about with somebody that's actually done it twice. They've exited 2 recruiting companies. They built, scaled, sold. We're going to talk about exactly how we did it from A to Z, the bumps, the headaches, the things that you need to watch out for. But most importantly, we're going to share the journey of how to get there and how you can take the idea, the dream that you have with when you started your own business and you weren't looking at a lifestyle business, you were looking at growing something that you can actually turn, produce, and sell into a reality. So I'm so excited to have Marc here on the podcast. So welcome, Marc.
Thank you very much. Love your energy.
So before we start doing a deep dive on how you ended up here in America, how you built your businesses, like all that stuff, can you tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yes, I now help and advise companies on recruitment and staffing businesses, how to scale, how to build value, and ultimately, hopefully achieve the dream of an exit one day. Work with them as an informal advisor, giving executive strategy, board advice.
Okay, so you're doing that now, but let's roll it all the way back. How did you even end up in this world of recruiting?
It's a funny one for me. I got a dream job after college. I actually got a job, beat 2,000 people to this job, which is advertising at M&C Saatchi, a big company, big job, amazing. My starting salary was $15,000 a year. And living in London, that was brutal. And I didn't realize I was money motivated, but slowly the grind of not earning money and living in a big city and living at home with my parents wore on me. So I quit that job. I booked a trip to go traveling, and I then stumbled into recruitment, as many people do. Guess what? I earned $15,000 in my first 4 weeks in recruitment. First 4 weeks in recruitment, earned $15,000. So I suddenly realized, wait a second, I'm onto something here. And I think sales and an environment where I can control my own income, my destiny is really important.
So you literally had a yearly salary of $15,000, said, screw that.
Yeah.
And then jumped into recruiting and you had success out of the gate. Like, why did you have success out of the gate? I know so many recruiters that didn't.
My company played a trick on me. It was crazy what the guys on my desk did. Crazy to think they did this, which is they said to me, every call that you make, you should get a vacancy. Every vacancy, you should get submissions. And every time you submit, you're going to get interviews. And one of those candidates is going to get the job. So I literally operated that way. And I wouldn't let somebody get off the phone without giving me a role because I thought that's what every call's supposed to happen. And every time I made a submission, I wouldn't let them get away with it. They're going to interview the candidate. And the people on my desk, now I know obviously that's not reality, but the people on my desk must have been sitting there thinking, oh my God, what is going on? So 4 weeks later, I've made 7 placements, permanent placements. And I remember it so well because the CEO of the company said to everyone, right, company meeting right now. Go and company meeting. He goes, Marc, you can leave. Okay. And I'm thinking, what have I done wrong? I'm sitting out. I'm the only one in this whole business I've just joined who's not allowed in this meeting. And he just says, yeah, your jobs are all in jeopardy now. This kid's come in. He's done deals straight away. And now you're all under pressure. If you're below target, you're under pressure now because it's shown us that he could do it. So people came out of the office literally staring at me like I did something wrong. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And that was my start to recruitment.
Like, I'm just blown away. That is just insane.
There is a crazy one for you in that because it's one of my craziest recruitment stories ever. In one of those 7 placements, a guy, they tell me, you know what, call up his old company because they're going to be looking now. So I call up his old boss and say, this guy's left, obviously. And we placed him at a new company. And he says, we're talking about he hasn't left. He's just sick this week. No, he's taken a new job. I'm telling you he has. And the CEO starts swearing at me and becomes a whole thing. I put the phone down. Oh my God, I realized the candidate has started at my client, but he's just taken a week off work. He's just deciding if he likes it. This is so bad. I live at home with my parents. It was my grandma's birthday. The phone rings at home with my parents. My mom's like, there's somebody who wants to talk to you. So I pick up the phone, my grandmother family's in the background, I'm 21. And he says, I'm going to get a gun, I'm going to find you and I will kill you. So he says to me, no problem, can I just take the phone call upstairs? You have to go upstairs. I'm just going to take you upstairs. I go upstairs. I answer, I will get a gun. I'm going to find you. I will kill you. He starts just absolutely saying, I'm not the one that lied to everyone. I'm not the one that cheated my current employer, the new company, etc. I think you got this wrong. And besides, I'm just doing my job type of thing. But I had to worry about somebody getting a gun and killing me. He stayed at that company, by the way, and ended up doing pretty well. But luckily, I never met him.
That's insane.
That was on week 2 that happened. This is a quite crazy start in recruitment.
Okay, that's a crazy start, but it's also I think you nailed something that I think a lot of recruiters don't understand. The power of belief.
Yep.
You believed exactly that this is how it operated, and you actually went and did the work, assuming that's how everything went.
Yeah. I talk about this a lot, actually. It's a really good observation. I talk about this in my life. I've been able to hustle and get certain things that I wanted and certain things happen. But that started with a belief that that's happened already or going to happen. It's not really a question. And people will say that if you know Mark, once he's made his mind set on something, then that's happening. And that's, like you say, it's a belief piece.
Is there a way that did you always have that, or was that something that you had to develop? Or was you just stupid, it started off as just dumb luck, that's a joke on you?
No, I think I've always been a little bit of without realizing it, because obviously we're our own people and you got your own personality. I think I was always a hustler, always finding ways to make money, have a bit of an edge, be entrepreneurial as a young kid. I didn't come from any money, came from low income, and I had to hustle to have everything. At college, I had to work to afford to be at college. So there was a lot of that was always ingrained in me. And my parents brought me up to be pretty independent. You're on your own. You got to live and die by these decisions. And I think that really helped in a way, not having a comfort blanket and being accountable for myself.
Fast forward, you jumped into recruiting, but then you were hustling in the evenings on top of that.
Yeah, I got offered a job. I moved to Sydney, I moved to Australia. I did recruitment in Sydney, which was amazing, fantastic. Really had one of the best years of my whole life in Sydney. I couldn't recommend Australia enough. And then was headhunted to go to Los Angeles. That was a big opportunity, spilling $1 million plus a year, really good environment. I was doing, interestingly, I started off doing graphics and video games. Graphics in video is my big customer, on trend today, but back in the day, they were very different, and video games. But most importantly, I think where you're asking about the evening work was I started to really get a passion for learning the game, learning recruitment, learning sales, the psychology of it, and started really spending time outside of work focused on understanding that, becoming a trainer. So Dale Carnegie is the largest training company in the world. I became a master trainer for Dale Carnegie, which is a big thing because I had to learn the game that I was doing. I didn't know any of it. I did it as a hustler, as somebody who's able to make it up as I go along. But I didn't know what a rapport builder was, credibility statements. I didn't know the language around it. And I realized that learning that was critical for me and critical for me to pass on that knowledge in future.
Okay, you got to the master trainer level within Dale Carnegie at the age of 26. I hate to say it, this is going to sound bad. I have not seen many trainers in that world that didn't have gray hair.
That was their whole thing. That was why. They came to me and said, most of our trainers, they're retired. We don't have a 26-year-old VP who's crushing numbers, essentially, and we want somebody who's able to talk and relate to people in that sense. Somebody's able to stand up there and say, I'm living this, I'm embodying this. I didn't do it 20 years ago. I'm doing it now, today. I'm using these tools and these exercises. And that was valuable. Credibility is real there.
Awesome. Okay, so you went from the UK to Australia. How did you actually end up in the US?
I had a good reputation in the UK, and I guess I was hitting big numbers in Sydney. And I often would get messages, as the people do, to say, hey, when you move back to the UK, I'm going to offer you a job. And I made a flippant comment to one of those companies. I think my next move will be the US. That company said, well, funny you should say that. We have an LA office. Damn it. I sort of gave them an in. They're like, right, we're booking flights for you to go to LA. It's like, no, we're not. I was very happy in Sydney. No, we're not. And eventually, they literally, I'm saying, they booked flight and sent me the tickets. Shit, I guess I'm going to go to LA. It's going to be a free holiday now. I'll go there. And then they got me on something, which is, and here's the truth of it. I went into LA and the guys that were working in that LA office, they were billing 2 million plus, and they were doing large scale international projects And I sat there and I just thought, oh no, I need to learn this now. They're achieving things that I didn't know about. It was a growth thing. And I really realized, let alone the fact that I actually had a really blast in LA and I'm 24 at the time. LA is a cool place to live. But it was the fact that I could sit there and I think I can grow my career. I can live in a different country. I can have experiences at 24 that I'm never going to get anywhere else. But most importantly, this is going to be good for me long term. I can earn serious money. This was a big career move, let alone a life move with it. So it ticked 2 massive boxes for me.
And they actually, like, without you saying yes, they bought the plane tickets.
Yeah, they did. They did. And not only that, they offered me the job when I was here. I came out for a weekend of interviews, and actually it wasn't interviews, let's be honest. They just wanted to get me out, having a good time, loving LA. They did something really smart, had a really good time. And they offered me the job and I said no, because I'm so settled in Sydney. And I sat there and just thought, actually, I've had a really good time. I kind of need to experience this. So I took the risk.
And this was what, 2000 and...
It was the worst timing possible. It was 2001. When I moved here, the whole tech economy had crashed and was in pieces, absolute pieces. And that's why that was one of the biggest and best pivots of my whole life. Coming here and realizing that everything's in pieces, I had to develop a philosophy that I believe in to this day, which is, if I'm going to be a successful recruiter, I need to map out the future of whatever market I'm in. So I looked at the future of tech. Where's this going? It was becoming entertainment, content driven. Or where was that big? Big at the time was video games and graphics. It wasn't about playing video games. It was about realizing the nascent industry is going to grow rapidly and build a relationship in that industry. That philosophy has stuck with me in everything I've done from there. Still to this day, I work the future now. So, it's funny. I was, let's say, Rockstar, Grand Theft Auto, a game that everyone knows. The founders of Grand Theft Auto are in my house in Beverly Hills when it was released, sitting there saying, oh my God, can you believe this is blowing up, etc. Couldn't believe what they'd achieved. Well, it's a tiny industry. So you can dominate these small industries.
So we're going to spend some time digging into that in a bit. You were so embedded in that industry that you got an Xbox before it was live?
Yeah. But I mean, look, you want to go back in the day. God, sometimes I hate something and stuff. This just seems so old. This is 20 years ago, right? There was no LinkedIn. There was no way of headhunting people. So what we had to do is we built a relationship with the local video game store who would allow us to go in there and take the video games off the shelf, plug them in to get the credits. We'd have a digital camera. We'd take photographs of the credits of the video game programmers, designers, and then, because there was no other way to find out who they were, give the video game store the game back. They knew what we were doing. And then contact those people and headhunt them. That's how small and unique the industry was. We'd go to industry events and there's only like 2 recruitment companies total. Like you could just walk the room and everyone would know who you are. It was just a very, very niche, different world out here.
And then when did you decide to actually, like, everything seems like it was working good. Like you were crushing it, like you built up a space. When did you decide to actually start your own business?
I always knew I was going to do it at some stage. It was a matter of time. And that was the Dale Carnegie thing, learning the training, knowing that this is the path and the journey for me to do it myself. But the truth is I wanted to hit maximum maturity in life. There was a piece where I needed to dedicate myself 110%. We just spoke about this with yourself, where nothing else matters. And I wasn't ready for that when I was 26, 27. I think come my late 20s, I started to be able to say, I'm ready to stop earning money. I was earning a lot of money. No money, it just changed my lifestyle 110%. So age 29, 2008, I did that, moved back to England to do it. So there was a catch for me. I had 2 things come up at the same time. And I always said I would leave LA for love or money, and both came at the same time, which is a girl in England who's now my wife. So thankfully, that was an amazing move and went really well. But I met a girl in England and obviously we started a relationship. And then a guy in England who I know, my business partner, he turned around and just said, look, somebody I really rated, that I respected, somebody who was a bit of a mentor to me, said, hey, if you were ever to move back to England, I'd leave my job tomorrow, we'd start up a business. Funny you should say that. And that then started that path.
So like when he said that, like, was he expecting you to actually be like, hey, guess what, next week?
We were, it's funny. We were in our company, we were both like number one. We worked in the same company. I worked in the US business. He worked in the UK. We were both like number 1 and 2. And people would make a joke of saying, you two are the dream team, without ever realizing that I might move back. And if I did, the dream team suddenly becomes the dream team, which is what happened. I don't know. It's one of those funny things where maybe he did realize because he knew that I was in a relationship. He knew that some of that, maybe he thought I'm planting the seed at the right time. I don't know. It was the perfect timing.
Let's talk about just the relationship that you actually have with him, or had with him. Because like I've seen a lot of like partnerships fail.
Like the number one reason a business will succeed and number one reason a business will fail is the leadership. It's the number one. So if the partnership is together and aligned, and I talk about philosophical alignment, don't forget all the day-to-day stuff. If we have the same, just like you with your partner, if you have a partner, we have the same vision in life, what we believe in, the direction we're going in, that all the little decisions are very easy to interact on. And I really aligned that philosophically, and we knew each other for a while, and we really went into it like a big relationship. And somebody who, Graham Hubert, I love Graham to this day. I talk to him all the time. To this day, we talk about, oh, we'd love to work together. And if we're in the same country, he's actually just moved from England to Dubai. If we're in the same country, we'd be living next door to each other. And that's that's honestly one of the biggest pleasures of my life, being able to do the business with somebody I trusted and interact with. And the team knew that. They knew that we were aligned. They knew this stuff. They're not going to be able to get between us. And that's really important for their direction. When mum and dad are on the same page, that's really important.
Mom and dad are on the same page. Like I've seen the chaos of when founders are not on the same page. And I think it's one of the reasons why so many people have started their own recruiting companies, when the founder is just like chaos.
It's so important. It's so hard. There was a couple of businesses that we were very close with when ConSol set up. And those businesses would go out with the founders and everyone was really close. Both those other businesses they broke up, the founders. Both those other businesses are nowhere near where they were even at that time. They never, ever recovered from the split, ever. And they never exited either one of those, despite them being their big goals and having a serious business.
When you guys actually got together and said, we are actually doing this, did you guys do a bunch of like behind the scenes foundational work? Did you guys do a bunch of planning? Did you guys put together a structure and a strategy? Yes. Or is it a scenario that you guys actually like, let's do this and then start building the airplane after you guys already jumped off a cliff?
No, we were the guys that mapped out everything that happened, mapped it out, the valuation on an exit, the strategy, who would buy us. We've mapped it out day one. And there's a really weird thing that I have, which is we had this whole vision, we built our knowledge, we then developed the plan and we executed on it. And it didn't feel, it was really hard, don't get me wrong, but I felt all along that was what was going to happen. There wasn't any other option. There was no other breaking up, not selling. We were going to build this business. We were going to build value and we were going to make the exit. We did that. And it's only after I exited, when I started to talk to so many other founders, that I realized, oh, actually, we're more the exception than the rule. I didn't really know that. I was just living my life, not caring about other companies. Now, when I talk to other advisors, there's so many, and I'm so surprised at some of the gaps that I see. It gives me value that I can hopefully help them bridge that gap. But no, we were very much the opposite. We sat out, we gave some directors that we brought into the business, we gave them equity, and we put in what we felt the equity would be worth. And they achieved pretty much exactly that number 8 years later, which is crazy to think. And that was really important to me to map that out. So they knew the journey they were getting in. They knew the value to them and why that was important.
If you've already started your business, can you take a step back and restructure and re-strategize to actually, and what are these like foundational structure that you need to start mapping if you want to go build your business big? Like what are the things that, we'll say the bullet points that you need to make sure that you're thinking about early on?
Yeah, really good. So I start talking a lot about philosophy, and it talks like, what do you believe in? For example, today the trend is that hybrid in office. What level of management do you believe in? And really starting to develop a philosophy is absolutely fundamental. That's the personality of a company, right? Every decision comes back to that philosophy. Then you set a strategy. But the truth is with people, they need to understand so many different levels around an exit. It's quite complicated. So are you building recurring revenue? That's why the contract piece is important. Now, AI, you will not exit if you don't have AI layered into your business. Why? Because who's going to buy a business that isn't future-proof? They're not buying your business today. The way to think about it is no one's buying your business today. They're buying the opportunity to scale your business. So you're like that young athletic talent that somebody wants to bring in, not because they're ready to start and win every game, but because they will be in a few years. And if I get this young talent, that's how to think about it. So that's step one. Step two, which is greed kills all deals. We didn't go to market having stripped out all the profit of the business. because that's just too obvious. We went to market saying there's that massive opportunity for us to partner with a company and grow together and both make a lot of money out of this. Had we stripped stuff out of the business and optimized our profit, that wouldn't be a realistic journey. So one of the things that we need to know is on an exit, you're not going to get a check. No one's going to say, oh, there you go, there's a check for 50 million, walk off into the sunset. They're going to invest in your business, probably lead you in, keep you in there for 2 to 3 years. So it's a whole journey. To answer your question, Cam, yeah, absolutely. You can pivot your business at any stage. It's all the story. And if you said, hey, the first 5 years was a lifestyle business, I did really well, and I realized I have a market opportunity, well, the buyer's just going to hopefully buy into the story and where your business could be in 3, 4, 5 years' time.
What multiple did you guys end up exiting on the first business?
8.6. So typically, today multiples are a little bit suppressed given what's happened the last couple of years, but many companies are going to try and achieve a multiple of 5 or 6. We were aiming for 7 multiple. 8 would have been incredible, and then we actually achieved 8.6, which was huge for us.
And when you say like 8.6, like, did you guys have like direct placement? Was it a contract, or was it a combination of like both?
We had 350 contractors out and 35% perm. Perm, though, was the average deal size was $47,000. So it was good size business, good relationships, all in emerging tech. So that's really the big thing. Why did we get an 8.6 multiple, or what did we do? Our philosophy has always been to work the next big thing. So we were doing content, video streaming, online, all that online content world. That was our big focus, and mobile networks in 2008. 2014, we pivoted to AI. So 2014, I mapped out a future of the world being AI driven. Seems so obvious now, by the way, in this world when I say it. We got to remember in 2014, there wasn't this stuff around. So we mapped out a future of AI, including for me, it was about AI interviews or automating the whole stack. I had this whole document I did, and then I had to wait 10 years for reality to kick in. But we recruited heavily in those markets. And so then for come acquisition time in 2016, they obsessed over the markets, over the sexy customers that we had. TikTok was one of our biggest customers. And so these are big brand names we got in there in a really, really highly specialist and highly valuable way.
Things that you guys did outside of like sexy customer, sexy market before we were sexy, that you guys were really, like, we'll say like on an operational scale, that really moved that multiple up?
Really good question, that. I mean, there's so many factors that go into multiple. You could start looking at margins. You can start looking, obviously, the customer base, the type of things that we did, the locations that we were in. We built out some US contracts, which was really valuable because it almost showed that you can build more contracts on top in the US. But I think that the big thing for us, we had a massive emphasis on L&D, on internal marketing, documenting what we were doing, the strategy. And what that meant is you got to imagine come exit time, you're talking to companies, and we could demonstrate everything. I could demonstrate, here is 2017, here is a step-by-step guide documented for progressing your career. You come in as a junior person in our business. I have a step-by-step labeled out. You want to become a senior consultant. You can do that within 6 months. This is what you need to achieve in terms of billings, behaviors, operational. We had that all mapped out, almost an answer for everything. So should someone come in and say, let me show you this, let me show you this. And that was a really polished professional approach. Somebody said to us, I even remember the guy's name, but he said to us, you need to pretend that you are operating as $1 billion company from day one. And would $1 billion company not have any marketing material? Of course they would. Would they have this? Of course they would. Operate that way, because the company that's going to buy you is probably going to be $1 billion company, and they're going to expect that you've operated in the same way. So it's really good advice.
Were you tempted not to sell?
No. I'll tell you why. It's a really interesting thing, because I do hear this a lot, and I've got like one of the companies I'm closest to that does really well, and they're almost like, I don't know what we should do here. We built the business, we built a vision, we had a whole map to do, and we built it to create value for shareholders, to create an exit opportunity. And it wasn't just me. There's 7 other minority shareholders that came on that journey for them to realize and exit themselves. They knew they were going to take that money themselves and parlay that into setting up their own businesses so they could become multimillionaires one day. And they have done that successfully. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. Those people at ConSol have now pivoted towards their own businesses. But no, I think it was always set up to exit. It was then just coming about the timing of the exit. I could have held on a little bit longer and continued to build the business. I was worried about the macro economy. Now, bearing in mind, I actually made the final exit. I walked out the door in December 19. it turns out that timing was really, really, really key. It's funny when COVID hit, people were bringing messages like, "Can't believe you timed that. I can't believe the way you did." And I didn't. No one knew. What are you talking about? Time? I didn't time anything. I just got lucky on one thing in society, or unlucky as society got. But yeah, there was no timing. I can zero credit for that. But I was worried in 2016, went to market. I was worried about the macro economy. So some people listening today, I actually think it's really interesting. We have had a really tough period, and hopefully we're going to have a few months of sustained growth, and that leads to a few years of sustained growth. Economic cycles typically work every 7 to 10 years. Let's predict 8 years. So we can feel good about 5 years, 6 years of growth. After that, you got to start thinking, are we going to have another 5, 6 years of growth? And therefore, if you're on an exit journey or you want to build a business, I love it. Now's great timing to build something for the next 2 or 3 years, potentially think about and realize an exit, and don't get sucked into doing it one step too late. The economy changes and you won't get an exit because obviously your business declines and the buyers run.
For people that are thinking about exiting, like the economy has a huge impact on that, doesn't it?
Correct. It has probably as big an impact as their own business does. So going to market with an amazing business when the economy's down, you get a lower multiple, probably less interested buyers, less level of competition, and a higher perceived risk. So yeah, it's a little bit more challenging. Whereas the market's up, typically we had, let's say 8 offers, but 6 were legit offers where we really sat down and had to consider it. And that was an honor to have 6 different offers there.
So, looking back after the first sale, why did you decide to do it again?
Well, my first business I sold as a minority shareholder. And so I made money, but really I was able to parlay that money to set up my business ConSol. And if you look at that, we didn't take salary for 2 years. I said to you, I came from low income, right? It's not like I'm sitting there and I've got, $1 million in the bank. I earned a lot of money in my 20s and I was able to make a small exit on my previous company to then enable me to set up ConSol and not earn any money. And people, by the way, they love to not think about that, where your office manager is earning more than you and you're literally not taking anything, no dividends, no nothing, reinvesting it in the business. People don't talk about the fact that, it wasn't even 12-hour days. I was doing long days, coming back home, going to the gym, and then coming back online at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night for an hour or two every day for 2 years until the business was really, people don't talk about that, but it was a hard graft, but there was no question that was going to be done. There was no question. I was fine doing it. I never complained about it. There was no issue there because I knew the rewards would come our way.
Those early days, it was 2 years before you took money out of your business because you kept on reinvesting. Was there other things that you were doing that you recommend other founders to do? And during that window of time where you probably made some of the biggest impact on your company?
Yeah. So here's the biggest takeaway, actually. The most negative thing that happened in one of the most negative thing in our ConSol journey was in year 3, 2 top billers left, number 1 and 2. And these were key hires for us. And I was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. Is everyone going to leave? Is this the beginning of the end? You start really thinking and fearing that way. So we took advice. Advisors, very handy. And advice from 2 advisors that we spoke to was, you need to start cutting costs. You need to know what's going to happen and get ahead of it. It just didn't feel right for me. We're a growing business. We've done really well. Every data point is really positive. It just doesn't feel they can't cut. Up until, a day before, we were struggling to hire enough people. Now we're going to cut staff. And I turned around, here's a bit of advice. And I really passionately believe this, and I'll say this to you as well, which is in life, you're going to live and die by decisions. Make sure they're your decisions. Make sure you feel good about your own piece. I didn't feel good about the advice. And by the way, nothing wrong with the advice. I love them. But I didn't feel good about it. And I sat there. And I'm so lucky I've got a business partner that almost believes in me so much. I sat there and I was like, I don't feel it. It doesn't feel right. And I said, there's a big point here. We're going to make a decision right now. If this business is going to succeed or fail, it's going to be from our decisions. That's it. And I'm okay with that. I could handle making a different decision here and the business collapsing. I can't handle listening to the advice that doesn't feel right and the business not going the way it wants to go. So the tipping point is I'm going to be responsible for the decision. So what did we do? We turned around and said, we haven't lost the 2 biggest billers because guess what? Me and Graham are going to get back on the phones. We got literally on the phones. I started doing BD the next day in front of everyone. They hadn't seen it because they hadn't needed to do it as much. And suddenly started winning big customers, handing them out. And what we didn't realize is the team suddenly just thrived. Craig was one of our best ever years. To be honest, in year 3, we could have had a big exit because we had massive profit, a great story. It would have been actually really interesting. We didn't realize that year 3 was an outlier year. Over the 6 took us 6 years to get back to that profit number. But so the worst thing that happened in our business turned out to be one of the best. one of the best tipping points for our business. Really made us look at that.
I love that how you guys literally lost the two biggest billers and turned around and it's like, you know what? We are the owners. It's us on the phone and the whole team needs to see that.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's why one of my favorite times in the business, we grew a mature business in the UK and we decided to establish ourselves in the US. And I still had my green card from living here previously and I wanted to return to the US. And funny, as I talk about this, is one of the most memorable moments in my life was Graham and I were sitting next to each other. And let's say we're super close, really close. And he says to me, I need to talk to you about something. And you can tell, the tone of someone's voice, this is serious. What is it? He goes, I'm just going to come right out and say it. I thought he's going to say, I'm leaving or something serious. Like my heart is skipping. He goes, we need to set up in the US. You've got to go set up in the US. You just got to go and move and do it. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. But I picked the location. So obviously you can just pick whatever you want. Right, done. We both sat there in silence. I'm like, yes, I wanted to move back to the US, but I built a valuable business in UK. I can't tell my business partner I want to leave the country. He's sitting there thinking, I can't tell my business partner he needs to go and move to another country. So we both sat there and that was the tipping point, I think, that really solidified that journey. Because come the exit, it was all about the US. They were so interested in what we did in the US, despite having the bulk of our business in the UK.
How did you keep that partnership, that magic going with your business partner with, what is it, a 6 hour, depending on where you're at it?
So just up early every day on calls. I'm a gym guy, right? So I used to do my gym workouts at 7. I couldn't do gym workouts in the morning anymore because I had to be on calls as soon as I woke up. So just pivoting, making that time. Suddenly my day went from 7 till 5 o'clock as opposed to 9 till 8 o'clock. And so that just enabled me to pivot that. But the truth is, and this is funny because I just spoke to somebody today who was struggling with this, a founder. It was just trust. We trusted each other. I never, ever, ever. I'm so blessed with having the right founder. I didn't question what he did, and him vice versa with me. And I believed in him, what he was doing, and that was so key.
I love that. I feel like this whole podcast is going to be about finding the right partner.
It is. You know what actually should be about? The big thing, though, is it's about developing your philosophy and really sticking with your philosophy. And I say that if I'm setting up a business tomorrow, you can guess what that would look like. It would be heavy L&D. I'm all about learning and development, educating the workforce. It'd be a real brand awareness and it'll be working in future markets, something that's hot, sexy, big in future, renewables, could be tech related. I mean, for example, I was doing AI 10 years ago. I wouldn't do AI now, for example. Like there's a huge difference in the way that we operate and having that philosophy means, and it's the same with your employers. And then, by the way, if you're a recruiter listening to this, you can ask a business, what's their business philosophy? How do they like to operate? What do they really believe in? If that aligns with your vision, then that's the right fit. And if it doesn't align with your vision, doesn't matter how nice the people are, what they offer you, etc., it's not going to be right for you.
And so going back to the sell, you guys were able to, and this is something you told me offline, you guys were able to double EBITDA.
Yeah. So one of the things we did is we went to market in 2016, seeking investment, seeking a partner, and we sold 65% of the business and 8.6 multiple. We knew there was still good growth in the business. I knew no one was going to offer us 100%. So I played into that. And then what we did is we doubled EBIT. So the remaining 35% became worth more than the initial exit.
What were some of the secrets that you guys did to double the EBITDA?
So as we talk about optimizing, and it's the thing, when you're in a growth mode in a company, and it was really interesting because obviously you're growing, you're spending so much time hiring, so much time the failure of hiring, different systems, the cost of everything. And then also all the leadership, their energy is spent onboarding, retaining, doing all of these things. Once you slow down that growth pump and you start focusing on profit, you start realizing that I don't need to hire the same volume. It's more about getting more out of the people that I already have here. Then I can be more hands-on with the team. The leaders are spending less time interviewing, hiring, onboarding, retaining, reviews, etc. And it's much more deal focused. So I had I call it a little bit of a hero role at the end. I love my role at the end. I was just helping them close deals. Basically, the guys would just be like, I would be all over every deal, every placement, and really work on it. So let's touch on that for a second, because I'm really hot on this, on the offer process. It's an emotional connection. It's the reason that we do everything in life. It's about a feeling. You and your wife are going to buy a beautiful new house. They don't walk in and say it ticks every box. Walk in and say, I feel this is the one. You'll feel it when you walk in the house, despite you having an exact criteria. And therefore, we talk about that a lot, that a candidate accepting an offer is based on feelings, and therefore you really need to get an emotional connection. So sometimes when a candidate's saying, I'm not comfortable with this, take a step back. We need to get your conversation with the CEO so you can talk about the future vision, talk about these things around the company. It's not about the offer at that stage. It's about, I haven't quite got the buy-in. And we miss that sometimes. And we focus on the offer rather than the emotional connection and the attachment. By the way, I did this with ConSol. In our process, if I was trying to hire someone, I'd say, Benjamin, you're a top level recruiter. You're going to get offers anywhere you go. And that's the beauty of the experience that you have. So I want you to take a step back and decide, is ConSol the right place for you? If it is, and you say, I want to join ConSol, you and I are going to work together. I'll come up with an offer that's exciting for you. We'll agree it and we'll be there. But it's not about the offer. It's about the company. And therefore, I'm not going to get suckered into like making you one of these 5 offers. You got to decide on where you want to be and why. And if that's ConSol, I'm here for you. And really, and I mean that. I hand on heart, I mean that for everyone. Decide on the best company for you and then negotiate the best package with the best company rather than the other way around. That's how a company that isn't so strong is going to blindside you with an amazing package. Look at this money. Look at these benefits. And actually, they might not be the right fit for you.
Got to figure out where your future is. Love that. Well, and I'm going to take a step back before we jump back into the M&A process again. You've said this a few times about future proofing. You've said a few times about like, if you were starting over today, like I wouldn't be touching AI. How do you actually look at the market, map the market to figure out what's going to be the next biggest thing before it becomes a big thing?
So really good question. And I look at this in the stock market. Investing in Tesla today, though Tesla has had 60% growth, but investing in Tesla today isn't what it was previously. So there's some people that will invest in small stocks and they'll map out the small companies that they think are going to go to become unicorns. I look at that similar philosophy with where I consider recruiting. So let's take a step back and you got to consider any industry, let's say tech or hospitality, even mature industries like construction, for example. Well, what's the future of those industries? Where are they looking at in 5-10 years time? Where's that money going, the investment going? And starting to track some of that investment, some of the opportunity, and then going mega niche. So you map out the future, a nascent industry, whatever that might be, map out the types of people needed, and then contact that where the money's gone. You can chase the money in that sense. So it's really important. That's how you future-proof it. And then there's another layer. That's externally and your market approach. Then there's there's 2 things that you can do internally. The use of technology. You and I are big on this, right? So we're doing sequencing in 2012. When the first AI boom came around in 2021, people started saying, yeah, I'm all over AI. I'm all over AI. That's sequencing. That's automation. That's not AI. They're 2 different things. And these tools have been around for a long time. So I think step 1 is really getting used to tools. I mean, I'm all over Clay now and actually doing these sort of tools internally and making that a fabric of your business and everyone understanding. So we were tracking emails in 2012. So any email sent out, we'd send proposals for large scale retained projects. We would see the customer being able to open it, who they forwarded it onto, and know that they're seriously interested or not based on the amount of times it was opened. So use of technology. And then the other element I'm always going to touch on is trying to think of advanced solutions. So I said to you, we set up ConSol in 2008. It's the worst economy for 50 years. Can you believe I waited my whole life to set up a business and did that in an awful economy? And I'd get on the phone and I would pitch solutions, large scale projects for 25 to 50 people. They'd be laughing at me. Hiring managers laughing at me on the phone. Well, you don't know what I know. That's what I'd say to them. What? You don't know what I know. You want to look at any major company. You know what they do when the market happens? They have a hiring freeze. You know what they do? They make significant redundancies. You know what else they do? They hire a lot secretly. It's their number 1 chance to grab talent, to get rid of the bottom 20% of talent and to hire the top 5%. So they're all hiring. I was very fortunate enough to talk to John Chambers at Cisco, the CEO of Cisco, and he's been there for like 35 years. And he's like, I love a good recession. I get rid of all the dead wood and I hire loads in, and the market allows me to do it. It's the only time the market's going to allow him to make major changes in his business. So we often looked at that and advanced solutions and educate the customer. So people were laughing at us with these large scale solutions. And then guess what? We're able to say to them, if you're not hiring at least 2 or 3 people, you're going to miss an opportunity. And then we get small amount of retainers. And it was almost comical to think by pitching so high, by having such an advanced solution, that meant that we're able to beat the contingency recruiter.
With you guys pitching so big, literally at the start of your business, just recently read a book that was at 10x is easier than 2x.
Yes. Yeah, I want to read that book now. I absolutely believe that. I'm actually going to write that down.
Is it because you guys went so big while other recruiters are going so small, you guys were able to win this work?
There is, but there's a credibility statement attached to it, right? You're right. But there's genuine, I talk about this. There's fact, then there's an opinion based on top of it, and then it enables you to make your decisions. So you're the hiring manager. The fact is, every company, every large enterprise company that goes through large-scale changes like shareholding and the economy will absolutely start doing this process. That's a very known process. And therefore, I'm educating you on a fact. I'm giving you my opinion on top of it. If your company isn't hiring, you're going to miss market share. Even as you're getting rid of people, you will miss out on market share. And therefore, then that encourages an element of thought and process and credibility in it. I think sometimes you could just pitch that and they could laugh at you. And if you don't have a comeback and a way to respond to that objection that they feel is credible, then you're not going to get anywhere. It sounds too easy just to say, pitch the big thing. I was pitching the big thing, letting them undermine it, and then telling them, well, you carry on thinking that way, and that's why you're going to lose out. And having the confidence to say that, arrogance at times, the confidence to say that.
Okay, so picture this. Moving the direction, the future proofing, figuring out the next thing. Like a lot of people think this is the recruiting founder is what is going to be able to do this and jump into this next thing.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast. They work at an agency. They work with a team. How can you in the agency as a recruiter, somebody in the recruiting chair, like I'm looking at this, like, you know what? I need to start future proofing where I want to go. How do I do that from the recruiting chair while I work at another agency? Like maybe where I can help them.
This is a really good example. Let's think about that, recruiters. I always say, me as an advisor, as an executive, etc., it has to impact the person at the desk. Otherwise, it's just DS board level advice. We have to get back to the individual. So now, if you're listening to this, say, hey, cool, this sounds good. You hopefully have a book of business customers. You've got an established thing, and we need to pivot away from that. Now, I'm not saying drop that and go do something different. You've got a BD list. It obviously depends on the model, right? Then here's the thing. If you're a recruiter, you're beholden to somebody else doing that BD. As in, if you're literally just sourcing, somebody else is doing the BD and bringing the roles for you, then you're not necessarily totally in control of that. And it does become harder. If you look at those that are doing BD or a 360 model, what I would say is if you have a BD list, instead of doing your BD list to, let's say, tech, and you've always done Java and SAP and some of these more historical legacy based, and say, okay, cool, what would I do now? Well, you'd still carry on with both, but your new BD, you start pivoting more towards those new customers and looking for trends. Now, your new BD isn't going to give you the instant thing, but what your new BD will show you is as you start making calls, you'll start to get bites, and those bites will hopefully lead to trends that you can then capitalize on. So I said we did AI in 2014. We actually broke that down as computer vision, robotics, machine learning. And it was only when the guys started to target the car driving companies, autonomous vehicles, computer vision, that they got massive traction. So they had to almost play the game a little bit and put some calls out. And then they realized, oh, actually, we don't do AI, we don't do computer vision, we do autonomous driving. And those sort of niches. So it's about playing a little bit, thinking about what's the future, doing BD into that market and playing and be willing to speculate with wherever that takes you. But a bit like a stock, if it's hot today, then you kind of missed it, right? Like I was talking to clients back in 2021 on AI, but they were making so much money in 21 and 22 from just their existing things. Why would they pivot away? They couldn't. But obviously now we know virtually every company is going to say, I do AI and machine learning, etc., and it becomes a real race.
Okay, so I want to jump back over to the M&A, like the exiting. What are the things that kill the deals?
We touched on greed killing all deals, and that's the same for everything in life. It's really important. I believe in a win-win. As soon as it's not win-win, then...
Okay, when you say greed kills deals, what do you actually mean?
So there's a piece here that people overvaluate their businesses. Oh, look at this. One of my best man at my wedding, right? We went to market. Funny enough, he has got a really valuable, amazing recruitment company, 2016. And he went to market and he was given a really, really punchy valuation. And I felt that valuation was not accurate. He really felt it was valuation was accurate. And unfortunately, he got offers that were nowhere near that valuation. He rejected them. And then now today, here he is 8-9 years later, he hasn't made that exit, regrets not thinking about it, and is basically was given a number that just wasn't realistic. It's like a real estate agent or a realtor coming to your house saying, oh, your house is worth this money. Oh my God, it's amazing. I should sell for that, but it's not. You're not going to make an exit. You're going to spend a lot of time, effort, energy trying to hit a number that's not realistic. That's step one. And as we look at the win-win, because you're going to be locked in, you need to make sure that you have got growth ahead of you, that you can actually continue to build, that you're not checked out. You're not just going to leave. So I talk about, ideally, we want to go one step early and one step late. We're trying to time the market. It's really hard. So go one step early. You'll get more buyers. They'll think this is amazing, so good. They're getting a good deal out of it. You're going to get the right partner, multiple offers, increase your multiple. And then you go one step later, you realize on the second exit, you really juice it. You get the right profits up. And it's a good win for everyone. That company, we doubled the EBIT in 3 years. So that was a good win for them. As an investment, that was the right type of investment. We did what we said we were going to do.
When you're going through this process of exiting, how is it on the founders?
It was the hardest working year of my life, in my entire life. They are looking for skeletons. They're not going to give you a big check. They want to find faults in your business. That's their job. They've hired a firm, an HR company in the US, just to look at our HR policies. Everyone, documents, emails, interactions, any complaints, how we handled it, all of this stuff, like massive thing.
You've had success that a lot of people haven't had, but looking back and kind of peeling away some layers, like what do you think is a huge driver for you on why you've had this kind of success?
There's two things probably. There's an element of fear. It's fear-based. It's not actually success-based. It's fear of failure.